Hi, everyone. Thanks so much for joining me for the first installment of our new educational webinar series. If you guys have any questions throughout the session, feel free to use the Q&A button on the bottom of your Zoom toolbar and add any questions that you may have to the list. And then we'll have a nice lengthy Q&A session at the end today, and we can kind of get to all of those. Let's just jump right in. My name's Stacy. I'm the Client Success Manager here at PaintScout. I'll be your host today. And today we'll be building an exterior estimate, and I'll have some tips and tricks for you along the way to kind of help speed up that workflow for you. And this will be the first installment of our new educational webinar series. So we hope that you enjoy it. I'm going to launch a poll just to get an idea of what everyone's level of experience is estimating exterior projects. So take a moment to kind of answer that. So a good mix of beginners, some intermediate people, a couple experts here. That's great. And so just for reference, for today's example, we will be using time-based rates to build this estimate together. So if you're not familiar with that, feel free to check out some of the help resources we have in our support library. We also have a couple YouTube videos on it as well. And then if you have any other questions, feel free to reach out to our team at support@paintscout.com and we can help you guys with that. So I'm going to jump right in and I'll share my screen. And we'll take a look together at the house that we'll be working on. So this is just a little brick bungalow. So we'll be painting all of the brick, not the parging, but we will be doing all of the exterior trim. Perfect. And so let's build this together in PaintScout. So I'm going to start by doing a new estimate and choosing the exterior estimate type. Now from here, I could build this quote from scratch, but I am going to choose a template. A template allows you to have a couple of items already added in there for you. So you'll see I have this exterior preparation line item included. As you kind of get more familiar with your estimating process, you can kind of build out your templates to be a bit more detailed and kind of just expedite that workflow. So we'll start by adding an area or a line item. So let's do an area, and I'm going to build this out using the side-by-side method. So again, I'm going to launch another quick little poll here just to get a feel for how you guys are currently estimating. So I like the side-by-side method because it gives you the ability to kind of be really detailed with each side of the house. And then I'll show you some tricks on how you can kind of consolidate that to look a little bit cleaner in the presentation to the client. But I definitely see people do whole house as well. Awesome. It looks like there's a pretty good split amongst the attendees today as well. Perfect. And a lot of people are saying that they do both depending on the project, which makes a lot of sense. Awesome. Perfect. So let's start with the front side of the house. So I know that this house is 30 feet long. If you are on site, you can definitely measure the perimeter of the house with a measuring wheel, or you could walk it with your average step. I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to type in 30 feet for the length there. And then on average, one story is going to be 10 feet. So you can kind of use that as a benchmark for the height. Or if you want to be a bit more precise, you can also use a laser measurer. Wonderful. So now we're going to pick and choose the surfaces that we're going to be painting. I'm going to start with a power wash here. And we'll do this on each side of the house. And then I'll paint some brick siding. Now you'll notice my materials aren't populated. That's just because I have included them already in the hourly rate. But if you do want your materials to populate alongside your labor, just make sure you have a default product, added to your production rates. We're also going to be doing the soffits, gutters, and fascia. So I'm going to choose this fascia and gutters 1 story rate. along with the standard soffit. You'll see with the production rate, it's nice to have a variety built out for you, and then you can kind of pick and choose depending on the project. We also have this downspout here on the side of the house, so I'm going to make sure we include that. And then let's add in some windows. So we have this, I think, medium window here, and then this small window on the right. So these are going to be per item rates for me. So I have this small window, and I'm just going to add that we have one. And then the same thing for the medium, one of those. And then we also have a front door. So I'm going to go in, choose that front door option. Perfect. Oh, and then we also have this gable up on the front. So I'm just going to go ahead and add that in. Just one of those. Perfect. So those are essentially all the surfaces we're planning to paint. Now you can go in and make adjustments to each surface as well. So I am going to do that with the downspout here. I'm going to open that up, and then you'll see that it's taking the length from the horizontal linear feet. We actually know that it's going vertically. So I'm going to adjust this to be more so 15 feet. It's about the length of the house, so 10. It does go onto the ground a little bit. So I'm going to take that as 15. You can go ahead and also adjust any of these boxes that you see here. So if you need to make adjustments to the rate, the hours, or if you want to add, let's say, an hour of prep in there, lots of flexibility. Perfect. So once I'm happy with how that's looking, I am just going to go ahead and add in a photo of the front of the house. Now with images, you can go ahead and also add in a title and a caption if you do have extra detail you want to share about this image. And by default, the images will show on both the estimate and the work order, but you can open up this drop down here. And let's say there's a photo of like damage that you just want to show to your production team. You just uncheck the estimate and then the photo will just show on the work order. Perfect. So now that we're happy with that, I'm going to go ahead and add that area. So we've gone ahead and that front side is complete. So you could definitely go ahead and kind of build out each area from scratch like that. But I really like to utilize the copy feature to speed that up for me. So to do that, I'm going to press the three dots on the right-hand side and we're going to select copy. And that's going to duplicate that side that we just built. Ideally, we're going to be painting or power washing similar surfaces throughout the house. We'll just be changing out mostly windows, doors, things like that. So I'm going to open up this second side and make some edits. So the first is going to be to the name and the measurements. So I'm going to make this the left side. That side's a little bit shorter. So we'll do 25 feet. And then with just that change in measurement, I've already had all my square footage and linear feet rates auto calculate. So I don't need to worry about any of my trim. Let's take a look at what that left side looks like. So pretty simple on this side. We just have what I'd say like two small windows are over here. So I'm going to go ahead and use the three dots on the right to either archive or delete the surfaces that I don't need on this side. So I'm going to get rid of the door and the gable. No medium windows here, and I'm going to get rid of that downspout. And I'm going to open up this small window and change that over to 2. Perfect. I'm also going to, you'll see that change the photo. So you'll see that because we did duplicate the front side, it also duplicated the image. So I'm just going to delete that out of there and pop in the photo of the left side instead. Perfect. So now we have the front and the left together. I'm going to copy this one more time on the left. And I don't need to make any measurement adjustments this time because it is the same, but we are going to switch this over to the right side. On the right side of the house, we have what looks to be as a little chimney. And then taking a closer look, we have 3 small windows here, a medium window, and an exterior door. So let's switch that over to 3 small windows. And then we'll click the Add Substrate button to add in those extra surfaces. So I'm going to add in a medium window and an exterior door. Perfect. And let's just swap that photo out once more. I do have 2 photos for this one, so I'm going to do both here. Oh, and I did forget the chimney, so let's go ahead and add that in as well. Perfect. So it did automatically calculate the chimney as 250 square feet, but I know that this is more so like, it's a very small one, so it's about 170. So I'm going to use this switch to square foot button, and I'm going to change that measurement to 170 square feet. You'll see that that's adjusted the painting hours and the pricing for us. Perfect. So we're going to do one more copy to finish out the back, and I'm actually going to copy the front side this time, so I don't need to change the measurements again. I'm going to copy that. And we're going to make the back of the house. So on the back, we have 2 medium windows, 2 small windows. I'm going to adjust this to 2, and then same for the small one. Perfect. And then once more, let's swap that photo. Perfect. So essentially, we've completely mapped out the whole house. Feel free to send the estimate to the customer like this if you wanted to give them kind of a detailed breakdown. But what I often see people do is using the grouping function to make this a little bit cleaner. So to get that started, I'm going to select the checkboxes on the left of each area that I want to include in that group. And then I'm going to choose the group option from the toolbar on the bottom. So this is going to allow you a bunch of flexibility to change the name of what this looks like and adjust the description. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to move everything up like this, and I'm going to display it like a bullet point. You can also add in any additional notes that you may have on any of these areas. And groups do allow you to adjust the overall price if you'd like as well. So once I'm happy with how that looks, I'm going to say add group. And it's going to change, it's going to consolidate everything and kind of change how that looks to the client. This is really great because on the work order side of things, you're still going to keep a nice detailed breakdown of what each side looks like for your production team. Perfect. I'm just going to ungroup this. And I'm also going to show you how to present in Substrate view. So let me pull up another poll for you guys. So I just want to see, are you guys familiar with using Surface or Substrate view? So lots of you not familiar, which is great. So I'm so glad we'll be covering it today. So Substrate view will instead show everything by surface. So to get there, we'll click this little drop down here on the right and we'll choose Substrate view. So now you'll see that everything is showing power washing, siding, and then we can still group these together as well. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to group the power washing and the brick siding together. And I actually already include that I have power washing in my exterior notes, like the line item we added. So I'm just going to get rid of that. And you can label this however you'd like. I'm going to call it exterior body. And then I have these additional notes added in from the surface view note. So you can go ahead and add these if you do prepare to present in surface view often. And it just has some extra info in terms of color, what primers we'll be using, things like that. So I'll go ahead and add that group in. And the groups will always be populated down at the bottom. And then for everything else, I'm going to group all the trim together. And so again, you can choose how you want to format this. I'm just going to take all the surfaces that we'll be painting. So you may need to do a little bit of manual manipulation to get the estimate looking how you'd like, but it's fairly quick once you have an actual style in place. So here we're showing them everything that we're doing. And this is actually surfaces included. Perfect. And then I'm going to add that group in. So again, we've cleaned this up in surface view for the client, all the body together, the trim together. So depending on how you guys like to present, you can either do surface view or area view. Perfect. So that kind of concludes the quick presentation that we had today on assembling an exterior estimate. If you have any questions, please pop them in the Q&A button that we see down here at the bottom. And we can go ahead and move into our question section. While we wait for that, let me pop up one more poll here. I just want to gauge kind of what your guys' greatest challenge is usually when you're estimating. So feel free to answer that, and that'll help us create some more resources for you guys. Brad said that he doesn't have this substrate option, only area and surface. And so for us, we use substrate and surface interchangeably. So those are essentially the same word. So you can definitely use surface view to achieve this look that we have here. Grant asked what this setting was for the chimney. So the chimney was essentially just a square footage rate. I'll show you what that looks like. And so that's on red. So that's just taking the square footage. And so we have a rate for that. So that would be set up as like a square foot rate in your production rates. Okay, so James asked, if you make an error on measuring, say they figure that the exterior is actually 12 feet, not 10 feet, is there a way to switch all of the heights at one time? Or do you have to go side by side? So that would need to be made as an edit on the actual area itself. So you would have to go side by side and adjust that height to 12. However, with just that one change, you're automatically going to have everything that's taking into account the height recalculate for you. So it's a pretty quick adjustment. Robert asked, how are we getting pictures in? So the photos that I've added, I just chose them from my device. Now I'm on a desktop, so I was just dragging photos in that I have saved here to my desktop. But you can definitely click this upload button and it'll populate like all your saved files. We can also, like, you do have an integration with Company Cam. So you can select Company Cam and search for your projects here. I'm not sure if I have any added, but they'll list all of the Company Cam projects and you can pull images that way onto your estimate. Yes, Grant, if you don't already have the chimney included in your production rates, you can go into your account settings and create that rate for future reference. If you didn't have it, let's say when you were on site, you can always make a substrate by using this create custom rate here. So if there's something that's kind of one-off and you don't have a rate already for it, let's say we could build this chimney together. It would be a square foot walls by hour rate. I would go in and say that we can do 100 square feet per hour. And then we could use that as the chimney. So Sean is saying, have you used a whole house area type room for? It's possible, Sean. Let's take a peek. So I have it set as a surface. So you can set this in your estimate type settings, whether you prefer a surface or the room with 4 walls. I would say on exteriors, especially if you're doing side by side, have that set to the surface. And then that way we're just calculating the length and height. If you're doing interiors, we'll set that as a room for 4 walls, and we'll also take into consideration the width. Rick is asking if we could do kind of a more complex house, and that's definitely something that we can do in a future webinar, one that's maybe 2 stories and has a little bit more complicated areas. I'd love to tackle that in the future project for sure. Dennis is asking how most people add material. So there's kind of 2 trains of thought for that. One is that when you're calculating your hourly rate, so your hourly rate is including your labor burden, your overhead, and your profit margin. You can also include your product or your material spend with that as well. So if you have it factored into your hourly rate, you actually don't need to have a material calculation happening here in the actual estimate. It's already figured into these prices. If you did want to calculate your materials on the quote itself, I would recommend going into your account settings in the production rates and having a default product set for each surface that you have. And then that way that material column will calculate automatically. An important thing to remember when you're adding materials to your account settings is you'll be wanting to include the price you'd like to charge the customer, not your cost. Nathan's asking if there's a way to make it so that prep time will automatically update depending on the size of the surface, or does it always need to be manually done? So when we're talking about the prep box that we see here, this is a static entry. So if you've already set this to 1 in your account settings, this is going to be 1 hour of prep for brick siding, no matter how large or small the house is. And then you can go ahead and manually adjust that based on the project. Angela's asking if we can show adding hours for extra prep time due to surfaces that require more attention. Yeah, absolutely. So we would do that right here in that prep box. So if you were kind of walking around and you saw that there needed to be maybe some extra caulking or repair done on the siding on the front side, you would just kind of that into consideration and accommodate however many hours of additional time your team would need. So let's say for this example, we need 2 hours here for prep. That's going to factor into the hours that are accounted for this particular surface and the pricing as well. James has said that I've hinted at future webinars. When will they be and how often do you guys plan to have these? So this is the first installment of our new educational webinar series. So we don't have an upcoming session scheduled just yet for the next one. But if you join our Facebook group, the PaintScout Pros group, that's where we're going to be announcing all future sessions if you guys want to register for those. James is saying that we started the estimate using a template. How do we make adjustments to our current templates? Great question. So templates can be adjusted in your account settings. So you would go to your account settings here under estimate, templates, and then you would just pop open the template we want to make a change to. So this would be an exterior one. And you would go ahead and change those. Ideally, you're using smart templates, and that's going to ensure that we're always pulling the most up-to-date info from your line items and production rates. So unless you're changing the actual format of the template, everything's always going to be up to date just by you changing the rate itself or the line item. So Rick is asking how you add things like caulking for prep work on one surface that you're painting. So I would suggest having those built out as your own rates. So I don't have any prep rates in here, but let's say you had a preparation category, maybe for masking, taping, caulking, things like that, even priming. And if you don't already include that in your production rate, you would have your own rate category, and each of those would have their own timing and everything like that. And then you would just go ahead and select it and add it to the area. What you can also do when you're doing that is use the advanced options down here. So I often see people want to hide from customer their prep rates. So that way we can factor in the pricing and the timing for something like caulking on the area, but we don't necessarily need to show that in the description to the client, especially because we've probably already noted something similar in our prep line item. Dennis is saying, can we permanently make the height 10 verse 8? Yes, we can do default dimensions. This is a great example of using templates. So let's say I already kind of have a format for when I do a brick siding house. Instead of just having this line item added, I could go ahead and just already have one area built out as well. And then with my most used surfaces. And then I can just go in here and change the length or switch out the surfaces depending on the project and just kind of continuing to speed up that workflow. Brad asked if there will be webinars that are going to get into more complex issues. Absolutely. We'll be sending out a survey after in like kind of the follow-up email that everyone will get after today's webinar. And I definitely encourage you to fill that out. That'll help us learn about what kind of topics you guys are interested in learning about in future sessions. Rick asked if we currently have any pre-made templates that we could use to start off. At the moment, we don't have any kind of like templates of templates to start using, but write into support and we can help get you started with those for sure. Wonderful. Okay, I think that is all the questions for today. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining us for our first educational webinar. I hope you all enjoyed it. Like I mentioned, you'll be receiving an email with the recorded session for today if you want to play it back and listen to it, and also with a survey. So I definitely encourage you to fill that out. I'd love to learn how you felt about this webinar and what you guys would like to see in upcoming sessions as well. Thanks so much for your time and have a great day.